Talking is really a thing in gaming or content creation. While chat or ping systems are ways to get your message across, voice is simply sometimes the best way. There are even some instances where group play might require voice. For content creation like here on YouTube, improving audio quality is really the way to go. I mean, you can start out with any mic, but eventually you'll start exploring. So here we have the FIFINE AM8 dynamic mic, which is a budget option for recording voice or for those who are looking to upgrade from maybe a headset or a phone mic. Now, I'm also going to be showing an audio mixer from the same company called SC3, which nicely complements the AM8. By the way, I'd like to thank FiFine for sending over the mic and mixer. On that, what I'll say on this video will be my own opinions, and they did say that they were looking for honest feedback. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. Let's look at the AM8 first. This is a dynamic microphone which has certain benefits. Quickly, you might already be aware of another option called condensers. Now, these are the two options you can have when recording voice. The short of it is that condensers are more, I would say, sensitive to sound, capture the natural voice better, and sometimes might require a separate power source unless it's a USB mic. An example of this would be the Samsung mic which I used to have before. That was a really cool looking condenser. Now, dynamics are less sensitive. They do not normally require power and suited for noisier environments. This AM8 is an example. Later, I'll show you guys another mic prior to me receiving this from FiFine. For roughly $50, this is a really nice looking mic, although it has a plasticky feel in some spots. It comes with its own stand, it has a USB cable, but not XLR, so I'll talk about XLRs in a bit. There's enough weight to the base so that it doesn't topple over. The mic is held steady by the arms, which can be tightened or loosened to make it easier to swivel forward and backwards. I do have some doubts in terms of how long that will last in terms of holding up the mic. If you frequently move it, swivel it forward and backwards, or attach cables to it that can sometimes be heavy. Now, down the line, I would suggest investing in a mic arm as it can hold the mic better. It can be a scissor or low profile arm like this one. Now, incidentally, this is a FiFine arm, but no, this wasn't provided to me as I got it way before I got this product. I was using it for another dynamic mic. Now, this slightly indented button handles the RGB effects. Tap it a number of times to basically set the feature or the lighting effect you want. Now, you also have your knobs for your gains and monitoring. Now, gain knobs are especially great if you want to control how loud you can be on the mic, so that's really great to have. On the back, you can have a button, well, it has a button that you can tap if you want to quickly mute your mic. Again, that's another feature that's great in terms of implementation. You don't have to press really hard as a simple tap will activate the mute function. Now, if you take out the foam windscreen, which to me really is a bit thin and not too impressive in preventing size and plosives, you can see the inside. This has the capsule and dampener for vibrations. Now, these two and other components are enshrouded by this metal mesh type screen. Now, by the way, the polar pattern for this cardioid and the speaking position is ideally at the top or this portion of the mic. Now, there is some rejection of sound on the sides and the back portion of the mic, which is typical for cardioid format mics. Now, the underside has your RGB lighting and different connections. If you plug in a USB cable that allows for the RGB effects, which won't really work if you're using XLR. Now, that is, as I mentioned earlier, controlled by the button on the front side of the mic. Again, simple taps will allow for adjustments. Now, on the underside again, this is for your USB connection. If you want that to, well, basically to be your default option for voice recording, you also have a 3.5mm jack if you want to monitor your voice. And of course, you have your XLR port. Now, to keep it simple, if you just want to record your voice on this AM8 and you don't have a mixer or interface to take in an XLR cable, the USB option is fine. It doesn't majorly affect the quality of your recording, or even if you're streaming. Of course, if you have an audio interface or a mixer that can take it, XLR is there. Now, a buddy of mine who's into multiple art-related stuff like choir singing, instruments, pianos, guitars, yeah, he keeps on saying that I should choose XLR. But really, the USB connection is fine. Now, aside from quality, I also should mention that XLR introduces upgrade or expansion options. So, really, the cable choice will be up to your situation, the equipment you have, and your path in content creation. So, how does it perform? I've been using the AM8 so far, but they've gone through some processing like noise reduction and such. So, I've also been using it in my last two uploads. I'll add in the sound of the AM8 without any of that and compare it against another dynamic mic, which is the Samsung Q9U. I'll also be using a lapel mic from JBL. Now, for consistency, I'll be speaking about 3 to 4 inches away from each device. There won't be any processing done for the Q9U, but I do have to mention it has additional filters on the actual mic. I'll be leaving them on their default setting. Also, I'll be putting some emphasis on the P's or the plosives, so it's also a test for the default windscreen. So, let's hear all these devices. Pulsars are rapidly rotating neutron stars that blast out pulses of radiation at regular intervals ranging from seconds to milliseconds. Pulsars have strong magnetic fields that funnel particles along their magnetic poles. Pulsars are rapidly rotating neutron stars that blast out pulses of radiation at regular intervals ranging from seconds to milliseconds. Pulsars have strong magnetic fields that funnel particles along their magnetic poles. Pulsars are rapidly rotating neutron stars that blast out pulses of radiation at regular intervals ranging from seconds to milliseconds. Pulsars have strong magnetic fields that funnel particles along their magnetic poles. So the two dynamic mics feel quieter, with the Samsung being lower in tone. Now, the Samsung mic, as mentioned, has filters to help manage that, if in case you were curious. Now, if anything, editors like Audacity can help make changes to your voice output. Now, let's get back on the AM8 and test how it handles sound from a desk or keyboard usage while talking through it. So if the keyboard is behind the mic. So, sound rejection from a keyboard behind it is pretty good, but I can hear some rumble in the desk, so I would say that it isn't. Again, an arm is really recommended for this. So, basically, my take on this AM8 is that it's a really good mic to start with if you are new to content creation or exploring options outside of headsets. In particular, the dynamic configuration of this device is better suited for noisier environments. If you're in a treated room or an area that really dampens sound around you with no noise coming in from ACs or air conditioners and the like, then you might want to consider a condenser, as it will take in your natural voice better. Now let's quickly go over the SC3 mixer from FIFINE. If you really want to take things a bit seriously but you're still budget-minded, the SC3 is the one to try. Now it's an audio interface that helps manage and mix multiple sound sources. That also pairs well with the AM8 because it has an XLR input. The simplicity reminds me of the Focusrite Solo I used to have, but that one was really more of an interface rather than a mixer like this SC3. So this SC3 is a mixer, and you can tell from these sliders. So these sliders manage 2 input sources and 2 output sources. These buttons at the bottom are your mute or unmute features depending on the connection type. Just press one and it cuts off that particular signal, and press it again to resume. Now, in the case of the mic monitor, that activates the monitoring feature. These sliders kind of line up with the back part. Now, I'm saying it kind of lines up because it really doesn't. Now, it's a minor annoyance that I noticed, but it's really not a big deal. This port takes your XLR cable and your headset. So this one is for external devices like your, I would say, mobile devices. This one's for your mic monitoring. And of course, this I normally use with my tiny desktop speakers. Now, so far, it's simple. And just like the AM8 before it, there's no software for managing it on your PC. The other buttons on the face handle what you would expect to be UI elements on your software. This particular button handles the RGB effects, which I normally just set to a single static color, but well, you have your options if you're really into RGB. Now, this one is the phantom power option for condenser mics on XLR connections. So this is not to be used typically with dynamics. The change voice option is, well, I would say fun stuff. Basically, it changes your voice. I guess if you're a bit more creative in your content creation or you want to have some fun with your chat on stream, you can use this. You can basically sound like male or female, a child, have a robotic sound, and have that sort of monster-like sound or deeper tone in your voice. So yeah, some really, really basic stuff. Electric, or this electric button, functions more like an auto tune. Now, I think my musician singer buddy would have some use for this, although he'd probably offer something a bit more professional. And these ABCD buttons are here for recording your voice or sound coming from other sources. So you basically hold one of them, waiting for the button to turn white, then you say what you want to say, and the SC3 stores the audio in that button, and then pressing it again or pressing the associated button again to hear what was recorded. So it's really useful if you want to play your voice again for certain phrases or certain sound effects that you'd like to record, like drum rolls for maybe not so funny jokes. Just be aware that there is a 15-second limit on the amount of recording. I mean, I can imagine you'll be having fun with your chat if you're a streamer. So yeah, those ABCDs are there for you. There you have it. The FIFINE AM8 dynamic mic and the SC3. Now, in summary, I would definitely say picking up the AM8 is a good idea if you don't have a desktop mic to start with and you're budget conscious. Now, it'll definitely improve your voice output and help with any typical background noise in your area. As for the SC3 mixer, I would say that's more of a decision point, as I would say it's really not necessary for basic content creation. I mean, it's great for additional control and being able to take in an XLR connection. Now, I will be keeping my SC3 as I kind of wish I didn't have to give up my older audio interface. So again, AM8 is great, and maybe think about the SC3 unless you like the feature. So, thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.